اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. قل ربي زدني علما. اللهم انشر علينا رحمتك وانثر علينا حكمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. The next section in this is غضب, which means anger. And he begins it by saying, وَبَحْرُهَا الزَّاخِرُ أَعْنِيَ الْغَضَبَ إِن تَأْتِي شَطَّهُ تَرَى الْعَجَائِبَ أَمْوَاجُهُ طَامِيَةٌ كَذَا اللُّجَجِ أَلَا فَعَنْهُ حَدِّثًا وَلَا حَرَجٍ. As for the swelling ocean of all of these diseases, so what he means here is that the ocean of all of the diseases of the heart is anger. And if you come to its shore, you'll see what astonishes. تَرَى الْعَجَائِبَ. If you come to the shore of the ocean, just the shore, you haven't even gone in it and looked at what's in it, you'll see ajaib. Its waves and everything else about it are overflowing. So say of it what you will without constraint. In other words, say whatever you want about ghadab and don't feel any constraint, because it's an amazing thing. And there's a hadith that has some weakness, but it's an important hadith in its meaning. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ, he came to his front and he said, Ya Rasulullah, he said, tell me, what's the best thing to draw near to Allah? And he said, Husn al-khuluq, good character. And then he went to his right side and he said the same, and the Prophet said, Husn al-khuluq. And then he went to his left side and he said the same, he said, Husn al-khuluq. And then he went behind him and he asked the same, and the Prophet said, أَوَلَمْ تَفْقَهْ? Haven't you understood? لَا تَغْضَبْ. Don't get angry. And there's another hadith where a man was asked the Prophet ﷺ, what is the worst thing that one incurs concerning Allah? And he said, غَضَبُهُ, his anger. And he said, كَيْفَ نَتَجَنَّبُهُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ? How do we avoid it? لَا تَغْضَبْ. Don't get angry yourself. If you don't want Allah to get angry at you, don't get angry yourself. كَيْفَ مَا تُدِينُ تُدَانُ. How you behave is what will be shown to you. And then the famous hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, give me some advice. He said, La taghdab. فَكَرَّ عَلَيْهِ awsini. And then he said again, awsini, tell me, give me advice. In other words, that wasn't enough for him. So he said, give me some advice. He said, La taghdab, don't get angry. He said, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, I want some more. He said 3 times, La taghdab. Don't get angry. So ghadab and the controlling ghadab is the key to good character. And the Prophet ﷺ, in that hadith when he said la taghdab, the ulama radiallahu anhum, our scholars, that it does not mean don't get angry. In other words, don't feel anger. Because even the Messenger of Allah said, إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ أَغْضَبْ مِثْلُكُمْ. I am a man, a human being, and I get angry like you do. And his anger could be seen in his face. If he got angry, he had a vein in his forehead. If he got angry, it manifested. So the Prophet ﷺ was not saying, don't get angry, don't have the feeling of anger, because anger is not a negative thing in and of itself. It's actually essential to the human character. And many things would never get done if people didn't get angry. But anger, if it's not transmutated into something that's useful for the human being, it will destroy him. And that's the point. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, La taghdab, what he meant, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, according to our scholars, Imam Nawawi and others, don't allow your anger to take control of you. Be in control of your anger. And some of the ulama have said that anger is like the hunting dog. If you don't train it, it won't get what you need. So it's literally needs to be trained. Because if you don't get angry, many of the injustice of the world would never be opposed. If people not get angry, people could go around with impunity and do things, and nobody would get upset. That's not what Allah wants from us. He wants you to get angry, but He doesn't want you to get angry for your sake. He wants to get angry for Allah's sake. This is the transformation of ghadab. Just like these other diseases, you transform them so that they're no longer working against you, but working for you. And the reason that He calls this the ocean is because this will destroy many people. They'll drown in it. They'll drown in the ocean of wrath and anger. And it will take them to destruction and despair. Now, he's going to go into some dawah, but at this point I wanted to make a diversion that's not really a diversion because it's very much related to this. Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu identified 4 essential qualities, and this is in earlier traditions as well. You'll find this in other traditions. This is not unique to Islam. But the Muslims recognize the truth of it, and this is why our Imams adopted that model. Fakhruddin al-Razi adopts it, and others. Imam Raghib Isfahani adopts it in his book on Akhlaq, and Imam al-Ghazali adopts it also. And it is a model that looks at the human soul and recognizes certain qualities. And Imam al-Ghazali says there are 4 qualities in the human soul. The 4 qualities that he identifies, the first one is called quwwat al-ilm. And in the Western tradition it's called the rational soul. Quwwat al-ilm. And that is that within the human being there's a power that by its nature is related to what man knows. And then the next one is called quwwat al-ghadab, which is the irascible soul, which is in the human being, it's the element that relates to his emotions, the basis of which is anger. And it's interesting that Imam Jalaluddin al-Rumi, rahimahullah, he once said that the wisdom for the prohibition of khamar is that most people are angry, and if they drink, the root of their soul is exposed. Because a lot of people get angry when they drink. They become belligerent. And so he said it's like a veiling from Allah. Not to expose people's inherent anger. So that most people at the core root of their soul is this quwwat al-ghadab, anger. And then quwwat al-shahwa, and I think I spelled it wrong, but it's concupiscent soul, the soul that's related to appetite, the appetitive. I'll use that word, because I can spell that. Yeah, that's a college word. The appetitive soul is the soul related to shahwa. Right? It's your shahwani nature. You have appetite. And then the 4th power is quwwat al-adl, which according to Imam al-Ghazali is the quwwah that harmonizes these 3. So that the human being is functioning healthy. None of these are out of balance. Now, these relate to what are known you find this in Western tradition and you find it in the Muslim tradition. The Muslims called them ummahat al-fada'il. In the Western tradition they call them the 4 cardinal virtues. And the ummahat al-fada'il are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. In the Islamic tradition, they call this hikmah, shaja'a, iffa, and adl. Now, when the rational soul is balanced, the result is hikmah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يُؤْتَى حِكْمَةً فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Whoever is given hikmah is given much good. And hikmah, according to Imam al-Ghazali, is the mean between balada and khid'ah. If the wisdom of the human being, in other words, their intellectual, this quwwat al-ilm, the rational soul, if it's in want, the result is stupidity. People do stupid things. And if it becomes excessive, the result is trickery. They become clever and use their intellect for manipulation, for tricking, exploiting people. Right? And which is an essential quality in order to get a job as a CEO, usually. Right? CEOs tend to be people that have this excess of this quwwat al-ilm, but they use it for manipulation. Right? Now, shaja' is when your irascible soul, your ghadab, is under control. And it is a mean between two things. It's a mean between tahawwur, or impetuousness, irrational behavior where people completely lose control, they become angry, they don't have any control over themselves, and then they do things that they regret afterwards. That's one level. Or jabana, cowardice. They don't have enough ghadab, they're too afraid to act. And these are both extremes. One is deficient, naqs, and the other is ziyada. And i'tidal is from the hadith, khairul umur awsatuha, kadhalika ja'alnaka ummatan wasata. We made you a middle people, a people of wisdom, hikmah, a people of shaja'a. Right? These virtues, if they're balanced, they become the qualities of the human being. And then iffa is the middle way of quwwat al-shahwa. And it's a mean between jumud, which is where there's no energy, indifferent. They don't have shahwa, right? They really don't have an appetite. They're not interested in the opposite sex. They're indifferent to their shahwat. That's called jumud, which is unhealthy in Sharia. The Prophet ﷺ didn't like it. And the excess of it is fisq, where somebody goes into completely indulging in their appetites, and they become somebody who's a slave to their appetitive soul, and they lose that balance between those. So again, quwwat al-shahwa, the balance is iffa. You become afif, and iffa is part of the sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the ignorant people, when they see the poor Muslims, يَحْسِبُهُمْ أَغْنِيَّا مِنَ التَّعَفُّفِ. They think that they're rich because they have this iffa. They're not out trying to get money. So they have this iffa, this dignity in their soul that prevents them from going out and doing things to get money through trickery and khuda and things like this, because it's imbalanced. And then the adl is, it's not a mean. It has an opposite. And the opposite is what? Zulm. So adl, justice, is not in between anything. It's the opposite of zulm. Now what you can see then is when these are in balance, you're just. And when they're out of balance, you're zalim. You're oppressing yourself and others. In other words, if you completely indulge your appetitive soul, you've become ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. You're oppressing your soul because you're doing things that the soul was not created to do. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, but not to excess, the middle. Eat to what you need. There's actually, it's a science now. You can determine based on your body size, you can determine exactly, almost to the, to the gram, how many calories you need every day. And if you eat more than that or less than that, you're zalim. Now Allah, out of His mercy to the human being, has created a natural state. You're in a fitra state when you're healthy, so you'll eat to where you feel satiated at a certain point. And it becomes zulm to your soul when you go beyond that. And this is why the Prophet said, خَيْرُ شَرُّ وِعَاءٍ مَلَأَهُ إِبْنُ آدَمْ بَطْنَهُ. The worst vessel that the human being, son of Adam, fills is his stomach. It's a zulm to your stomach because the stomach has a haqq. And the haqq is that you leave 1/3 for food, 1/3 for water, and 1/3 for air. That's the haqq, and that's the adala. If you go beyond that, then you've gone beyond the adala of eating. The same with your sexual appetite. Human being has a sexual appetite that if it's expressed naturally, then he'll be in a healthy state. If he transgresses it and goes beyond it, and this is part of this whole now Viagra society, right? Because for many people, as you get older, that aspect of the self should be diminishing as you look more towards akhirah and these things, right? And so it's very natural for that area of, but for people who don't have akhirah as a concern, they still want to be engaging in a shahawat that really they should be moving away from and directing themselves towards the akhirah. You see? And so they go out and they do all these things in order to fulfill their shahwa, which is now excessive shahwa. It's a mental shahwa because the physical shahwa is no longer there. The physical shahwa is not there. It's become a psychological shahwa. So these are the balance of a human being. Now, by the blessing of Allah, according to Imam al-Ghazali, the only human being that ever perfected the balance of these four was the Messenger of Allah. He's the only human being that was ever completely balanced in all three, which resulted in him being the most just of men. So his character is completely just. His nature is adala. And this is why the more you emulate him in his behavior, the more you become closer to being this just human being. For this reason, the Messenger of Allah did not fast all the time, because that would have been deficient in the iffah. You're not giving yourself enough. Nor did he go to the other extreme, but he was in the middle. He said, some days I fast and some days I eat. Ashba' wa ajua'. There's a balance between the human being. The Prophet ﷺ did not become angry when it was inappropriate. He became angry when it was appropriate, and this was his shaja'ah. He became angry when the state needed a mawqif. Imam al-Ghazali says that the honorable is to be angry in the right time, in the right place, to the right person, with the right amount. And how do you do that? By looking at the Messenger of Allah and what he did when he became angry. Because he never allowed his anger to get the best of him to where he prayed against people. He never allowed his anger to get the best of him where he struck people. Right? He didn't. He controlled it. And that is shaja'ah. The Prophet ﷺ also, أَنَا أَعْلَمُكُمْ بِاللَّهِ. He had more knowledge than any human being. And it's perfectly balanced knowledge. There's nothing foolish in his behavior. He never displayed anything that would indicate that there was any thing that was imprudent, that was incorrect for somebody to do who had wisdom. Nor did he use his intellectual gifts for anything that was clever or trickery. He didn't use it to gain dunya. He didn't use it to do these things. He used it for the sake of Allah where it was appropriate. Now, one of the things, and this is Imam Suyuti radiallahu anhu said, sometimes in his book he said, لم يسبق إلي في هذا أحد. Nobody, I didn't see anybody get this before me. I've never seen this in a book, but I was reading Qadi Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he mentioned about Abu Bakr, he said no one was more courageous than Abu Bakr of the Ummah after the Messenger of Allah. And I started thinking about that quality of Abu Bakr, courageous, which resulted in a talk that I gave called Abu Bakr and Courage. And it was talking about this virtue. But then I realized something about the Khulafa al-Rashidin. Each one of them embodies one of these virtues as his dominant character. Right? So you can see, obviously, hikmah is Sayyidina Ali, because he's Bab al-Ilm. And Shaja'ah is Abu Bakr. And everybody knows Umar the Just. Now the only one I was worried about was Uthman. Does it really work? And I looked up the word Iffa to get the exact definition, and immediately after it in the Qamus of Feroz Abadi he says, Wa'affan is the Afif Mubalagha. And his name is Uthman ibn Affan. And that's what he was known for. And if you think about it, what was he doing on the day he was killed? He was fasting. So his state is complete iffa, control of his nafs. Right? And even the angels were shy before Uthman because he had so much iffa. So each one of them embodies one of these four virtues as a dominant quality, but all of them, Ali was shuja', Ali was adal, Ali was hakim, Ali was afif. But the dominant characteristic is hikmah. That's what he was given. Sayyidina Abu Bakr was alim, he was afif, he was adal. But you can see in his mawaqif, shuja'a, because the shuja', the courageous one, is the one that does not waver when other hearts waver. That's the definition of courage, is thabat and al-masa'ib. And if you look at all of these events that took place in the history of the seerah, it was Abu Bakr who was thabit. He was the one that never wavered when everybody wavered. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, I presented Islam to everyone, and the only one that didn't waver was Abu Bakr. His heart was shuja'. He was, right? I mean, that's his nature, shuja'. So now, there's another really interesting thing about this.